and military veterans. For this is exclusively for public sector recruitments. So if there are any openings in public sector, the recruitments usually, the preference is usually given to military veterans, right? This is, you know, something like a practice that is still into implementation. And also, the recruitment practices in USA and Canada generally take up psychological examinations, or psychological testing is also another criteria upon which people are recruited, especially in US based MNCs. There is quite a significance that is laid on psychological testing apart from screening the candidate for educational qualifications and other skill set. And pay setting, and in terms of pay setting, base salaries in USA and Canada are usually set by statute, which means the government usually sets the base salaries. Like how it happens, here in India you have industrial standards. So every industry, depending on the strategic percentage of GDP and CGR the industry is giving back to the economy, the industrial standards determine the pricing. For example, people working in corporate have a different pay scale. People working in manufacturing industries have a different pay scale. People working in healthcare have a different pay scale. So the pay scales usually vary depending on the sector or industry here. Whereas pay settings in USA and Canada are usually set by the statute and adjusted by the president. Okay. And bonuses, how much bonus has to be given? I mean, like the increment part and all is usually set by the organization. I think that's the same case here as well. Is it not? The government decides what should be the basic wage or basic remuneration as per the industry standard, and anything other than the regular compensation like the bonuses or benefits. Certain employee benefits in Indian companies are mandatory, like the ESIC, employees state insurance corporation, the ESIC facilities. If a company has 25 employees and above, the ESIC facilities or benefits are to be granted mandatorily to the employees, है ना? For employees who earn 21,000 and less, ESIC benefits are very much applicable, and it's a mandatory statute. Likewise, there's something called accidental insurance coverage that companies owe to their employees if an employee meets with an accident or any occupational hazard during his or her course of work with the organization. Right? So there are certain mandatory statutes according to which certain benefits are to be covered by organization, and these are usually set by the statute. Whereas other benefits like the bonuses or increments or performance based hikes and all are usually determined at the agency level or the organizational level. The state has got nothing to do with mandatorily telling ki there should be the basic percentage of increment or anything. Usually, depending on the industry, as I said already, this is usually determined, right? And talking in terms of performance, see, USA and Canada has been practicing performance based pay for decades. Whereas I think most of the Indian companies have started incorporating performance based pay system for less than a decade or so. And even now, in government sector organizations, the performance based pay system is still a dream for many government based organizations, because the increments or promotions that happen at government sector is purely based on years of experience, irrespective of the performance score, right? This performance based system is quite diligently implemented in private sector organizations in Indian companies, most of the Indian companies. Whereas in government organizations, the performance based pay system is still not completely or 100% implemented, right? Likewise, in most of the USA and Canadian countries, uh, the operations, the performance based pay system is quite significantly implemented. It's mandatory actually. Performance related pay is mandatory. And next is promotions, right? So, on what basis do you think promotions are to be? Uh, on what basis do you think promotions are to? I mean, employees are to be assigned with promotions. Do you think employees are to be promoted based on their performance and skill set and variations in the performance that they execute at the organization, or should it be based on the number of years the employee has been associated with you? What do you think is the correct justifying method to promote employees? The very justifying method to promote employees is based on the skills, is it not? So, if an employee, irrespective of the number of years of experience, see, he has just joined the organization. It's been just 1 or 2 years since an employee joined the organization, but she has been performing really well, right? And her performance score is far beyond the expectations or far beyond the actual standards. And she's been excelling, right? On the other hand, there is an employee who has joined the organization almost 8 years back, but is struggling, right, to meet the expectations of the management. So these two categories, so whom do you think is eligible for promotion? The person who has been working for 8 years with the organization, or the person who is associated with you for only 2 years? Whom do you think is just going to justify, ma? How do you think is going to be justifying? Hello, do you hear me? Hello, am I audible? Hello. See, in this case, wherein there is an employee with 2 years of experience but is meeting beyond the expectations of the management, and on the other hand, there's an employee who has only 8 years of experience with the organization but is still struggling to meet the expectations, the very basic expectations of the management. Who do you think is eligible for being promoted? The one with 2 years of experience who is capable of meeting the expectations of the management and whose skill set and capabilities are significantly having an impact on the employee and employer. I mean, the organizational productivity and performance generally is eligible for being promoted. If it is a private sector organization or a corporate company, you know, promotion based on the skill set and competency would be justifying. But do you think this is going to be applicable for government organizations wherein the skill set and uh, you know the capability of an employee takes an upper hand over the number of years of experience? Definitely not possible. At least with most of the government organizations, you always get to see government organizations considering the years of experience as a very major criteria to determine if a person has to be promoted or not. Is it not? If you take USA and Canadian countries, the promotion is purely based on years of experience, or how do you think this is going to work? Hello. So, do you think the performance, I mean, USA and Canadian countries do implement a promotion based on skill set and capability or years of experience? How do you think they do this? Hello. So, qualification is the key determining factor for promotions at all levels with respect to USA and Canada. Experience and performance appraisals are not just very major criteria here. Qualification. If a person is capable of being promoted, he'll be promoted. Not because on the years of experience he is associated with the organization, but the skill set and the capability and competency that he gets to execute at the workplace makes him an eligible candidate for promotion when it comes to USA and Canada. And we did speak about training and development, right? Training and development give an opportunity for employees to upskill and stay up to date with all the latest advancements that happen in the industry. So do you think training is another factor that is widely given importance in US and Canada? Of course. See, most of the HR practices that we get to practice now in private and corporate companies in India have been taken from different countries, right? So these countries like USA, Canada, UK already have been incorporating meticulous training and development sessions for their employees to ensure that employees are upskilled and stay up to date with the latest advancements that they happen, right? So, on an average, it's expected for every employee to be mandatorily undergoing training for a particular period of time every year, right? So, every year, a percentage of the number of working days should be exclusively, and specifically confined only for learning and training, right? And next is repatriation. What is repatriation? See, if you're somebody who's traveling from India to USA and find a job there and work for a particular period of time or as long as the contract is active and then come back, you come back to India, it's not going to have any impact because considering the Indian scenario, you don't have social security or being covered by the you know government for health insurance or anything. So the privileges that an employee or a citizen as such gets to enjoy in US is different to that of the privileges that Indian nationals get to enjoy if they are in India. Like if people from India travel to a foreign country like USA, I mean developed countries like USA, and then work there for a particular period of time and come back, the scope of opportunities that you would get, I'm not generalizing, right? It is not that by default, if you have worked with a US company, for a particular period of time, come back to India, you're going to get quite a lot of opportunities. Ani, I'm not telling, but the scope of your to get good opportunities relatively good if you have worked in the US for a particular period of time and came back. Okay. Likewise, how about a person in US coming to India and going back to US? Coming to India, staying here for a particular period of time and then going back to US. Do you think it's going to be challenging for repatriates? So repatriates means people who are coming back to their parent country. I said right. From India, somebody travels to USA, works there for 8 years or 10 years, and then makes good numbers, and then comes back. So the designations or roles that you will be entitled with after your service in the US is relatively different to that of the designation you will be assigned depending on because from a developed country you work and come back. Developed country is not always no, you shouldn't be looking at always in terms of money. You call a country developed country because the policies, the protocols, the rules and regulations, everything is modernized and justifying. Whereas in countries, in developing countries, there's always a restriction or a limitation owing it to the finances, or it to the cost of living index or anything. There's a limitation that it is always bound by. Whereas if you're working in developed countries, since there are no any limitations, your ability and scope to garner knowledge and expand your horizons of competencies is relatively very, very, very high. So for somebody who has worked in the US for a particular period of time and came back, the kind of job opportunities you will be entitled with is relatively very good to that of the job opportunities you will be given if you did not go anywhere and have been working only in Indian companies, right? So the same way, let us take a repatriate of US nationality coming to India or any country, working there for a particular period of time and going back to US or Canada. How do you think this is going to work out? Yes? Hello.
Hello.
Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So when we talk about repatriates or US nationals or Canadian nationals who are moving to different countries and going back to their parent countries after their course of work. So what generally happens when you come back? The recruitment, since you left the country for a particular period of time, all the benefits and privileges that you are entitled by the government will be put on hold, right? So after you come back, the entire process has to be restarted again, and it's little challenging because there are no clear repatriation policies. US government still, has this aspect. That is the repatriation policies with India, US government and Canadian government is relatively very, very challenging compared to any other country's repatriation policies, because once you move out of the country for work and come back to the country, the you have something called a social security number that you will be assigned with, is it not? And then under the social security number, you are entitled for a set of benefits by the government, is it not? It could be free education up to a particular point of time, or free health coverage, or free insurance coverage, or anything. uh, if you are given a social security number, you are entitled for all these benefits. So if you're moving to another country, do you think you're still eligible for seeking all these benefits from your parent country? No, right? So your all your benefits will be put on hold. What happens generally after you come back? So for as long as you're out of the country, your social security number will be deactivated and you will not be entitled for any kind of benefits as such. But when you come back, this reactivation of the social security number and all the benefits that the citizen or the national is entitled for, this reactivation thing is quite time consuming and it's quite challenging. Okay, which is why the repatriation policies of USA and Canada are not very employee friendly, right? See, understood, these are the differences in terms of staffing policies, recruitment practices, pay and remuneration, performance, promotions, training, and repatriation that we spoke about, comparing India with countries like USA and Canada. Let's now have a comparison with Asian countries. HR practices. Let's talk about HR practices in Asian countries. So, can you list a few Asian countries? Can you list a few Asian countries? Are we Asians? Is India an Asian country, ma?
Yes, madam.
It is. Okay. So, can you list or can you name a few other Asian countries? China? China Asiana kada?
కాదు మేడం.
Aunu. China is
ఓకే.
an Asian country. Japan is an Asian country. Okay. Any other countries? India, China, Japan కాకుండా ఇంకా ఇంకేమున్నాయి నాన్న ఏషియన్ కంట్రీస్? See, there are 48 countries in Asia, ma. Hmm? There are 48 countries in Asia. All these 48 countries together are called Asian countries. Okay. Most in these Asian countries, you have developing, developed, and so, see, like India, China, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Japan, Philippines, Vietnam, Turkey, Thailand, Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia, Malaysia, North Korea, Syria, Sri Lanka, Kazakhstan, Israel, okay, Palestine, Maldives, Bhutan. So many, all these are Asian countries. Okay. So, what is it with Asian countries? How do you think the HR practices vary in Asian countries? See, when we talk about Asian countries, you will have to, for the first and foremost thing that has to come to your mind is the population. Okay. Compared to any other countries in the world, Asian countries are relatively highly populated. Do you agree with this? Inma. Compared to any other countries, Asian countries are relatively highly populated. Do you agree with this? No? Okay. See, let's see. Let's take a few countries. Like, since we are in India, since this is international HRM, we won't be talking much about the practices in India. We'll just have a comparison between India and other countries. So, in this regard, your syllabus specifies on talking about HR practices in two major Asian countries, that is China and Japan. Because since we are already in India, we get to know the Indian practices with respect to HRM. Let's talk about the HR practices in two major Asian countries like China and Japan. Okay. See, human practices in Japan are characterized by lifetime employment and seniority based pay and promotion, which is quite contrary to the HR practices that we discussed about in USA and Canada, right? So USA and Canada lo ఏమైంది lifetime employment కాదు. You are, employed for a particular period of time or contract based or career based or position based. Is it not? So, for as long as the project is active, you will be on roles with the organization. So once the project ends, your role with the company also ends. That's how USA and Canada had it. Whereas in Japan, it's a lifetime employment and seniority based pay and promotion. Okay. What did we see in USA? Promotion based on capabilities and skill set. Just because I'm in an industry for 10 years, that doesn't make me an experienced and qualified personnel, right? See, even after 10 years of experience, I'm still a dumb person without, much awareness and knowledge about the industry. What is the point? Is it not? So you know, every method has its own advantages and disadvantages, as I said. Whereas here in this case, it's a seniority based pay and promotion. So, irrespective of your capabilities and skill set, depending on the number of years of experience, you get a promotion there in Japan. Okay. So, Japanese employees. In Japan, the recruitment usually happens at a school level or a university graduate level. At a university graduate level, the recruitment happens, and most of the recruitees are not trained employees. So, whereas in USA and Canada, educational qualification. So, the higher the qualification skill set of the employee, the better opportunities for him or her to be employed in the organization is what we get to see. Whereas in Japan, your qualification, your high qualifications do not play a significant role. You are taken into the organization at a very basic level of your education, like a UG level or a school level, and then you're trained and during with the years of experience and training that you've been provided with, you tend to perform and meet the expectations of the organization. That's how it is in Japan. Quite different, right? US low nt, the higher the qualification and skill set, the better position or the better the opportunities the employee gets to enjoy at the workplace. Whereas in Japan, since you're taken into the organization at a very basic level of your education, like at a school level or a undergraduate university level, right? You are, of course, very fresher. And without any industry knowledge and experience, why are they still recruiting you? Because they consider your skill set and knowledge grows with years of experience, right? So your certifications are not going to, of course, every country has its own policies and perspectives with respect to educational qualification and experience, and it's quite debatable, right? Some agree ki the certificates and all do not actually play a significant role. All that matters is, your experience. Some say experience doesn't matter if you do not have the necessary qualification and skill set. So it's always a debatable topic. Let's not get into that deeper. Let's just try comparing how the HR practices vary from one country to other country. Like I said, in Japan, it's always a seniority based pay and promotion, and it's a lifetime employment. And as I said, the career advancements and regular pay increases are provided based on the age. Okay, age and length of service to the company. So the longer the length of the service to the company, the higher will be his or her pay scale. That's how it is in Japan. Okay. So, Japan human resource management has three major characteristic features. First is lifetime employment, second is seniority based payment, and third is company unions. India, way back then, and even now, most of the government organizations in India do still have unions. No? What unions? Mm-hmm. Hello, am I audible? What are unions? Employee unions. See, employees who work in a particular sector or industry form a community or an association and elect a leader, and this leader with the employees as members of the union will be taking important decisions related to employee welfare, right? And these employee unions or trade unions are usually, licensed. They act as license between government and employees, right? See, if employees have a demand, for example, employees are expecting 15% hike this year, right? Or employees are expecting twice bonus twice a year. So what do you think the trade union leaders are going to do? The union leaders are going to represent this demand of the employee in front of the state, right? And they are also are responsible for negotiating with the state and make sure that the best of the benefits are made entitled to the employees. This is the very importance of having trade unions or social unions, right? So the trade unions are not meant for any anti-social or illegal activities. The perception of trade unions has changed, and people started, especially political parties have started, misusing trade unions for their own personal benefits. But trade unions are meant to fight for the employee welfare, right? They're supposed to be acting as supporting bodies, right, to safeguard the welfare of the employees, in order to ensure that no employees are exploited, and in order to ensure that employees are entitled with all the basic rights and responsibility, I mean basic rights they are eligible for. Trade unions usually take up the lead and help the employee. Okay. So the Japan recruitment practices have these three major characteristic features. What are they? First is lifetime employment, second is seniority based payment, and third is company units. Okay. So uh, these are the three main characteristics of Japan's HR practices. Okay. Also, uh, when we talk about China, the next country we should be talking about in terms of HR practices is China. So, what is collectivism? How do you think the employment practices in China are different? Hmm? Okay. See, in Chinese, you have white collar and blue collar employees, right? As per Chinese HR practices, there are two terms that is very often or widely used in Chinese HR. That is blue collar and white collar. Okay, blue collar employees are administered by the Ministry of Labor, and white collar employees are administered by the Ministry of Personnel. Okay, so people who are engaged in specified leadership and management work usually come under white collar staff, and people who are administered by the Ministry of Labor, like the daily wage employees, people who are at the base level or the core level of the organization. All these people come under blue collar employees, whereas white collar employees are mostly management professionals or people who manage certain leadership roles and responsibilities. Okay, so I in the beginning of today's session, I remember talking about line and staff, right? Line managers are responsible for direct implementation of work process flows, whereas staff management is responsible for offering advisory support. to the line managers. Like how we have line and staff manager concept in India, the blue collar and white collar concept exists in China. Got it, everyone? Why do you think? Hello. Hello. So, how do you think this differentiation is going to help them? See, the blue collar employees have different HR practices in terms of recruitment, selection, training, payment, and all, compared to the white collar employees. Okay. So, usually the employees have different levels: low level, middle level, and high level managers. Is it not? See, these low level managers are responsible for at the actual implementation of the task. What does the middle level manager do? Hello. See, blue collar employees have different uh, HR practices in terms of recruitment and promotion compared to white collar staff. So, all the blue collared employees come under non managerial category, right? So the compensation, remuneration, appraisal system, recruitment policies, training and development practices, everything differs from blue collar to white collar employees. See, usually the blue collar employees uh, are given training in the form of apprenticeships, and after this period of study, a particular category, I mean, particular number of employees will be assigned to each enterprise. Whereas for white collar or managerial staff, the managerial staff are offered training by the training is very much a priority here, and they are offered various types of training: on the job training, off the job training, vestibule training. Right, on the job training is they are at work and simultaneously are expected to learn from the work and get trained. And off the job training is the employees are expected to take a break, a temporary break from work, and get trained and come back. Vestibule training is a training wherein an employee moves to a different place. Okay, so it varies to the blue collar employees and white collar employees, because the nature of work is quite different, right? For white collar employees, it's always about managerial positions, and also the kind of training and development they would be needing is entirely different to that of the training and development in terms of content that an employee, I mean, blue collared employee gets to enjoy or entitled for. Is it? So these are the practices in Japan and China. Clear with all these, everyone? Hello. Hello. Are we connected? Hello. 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 So, in today's session, we spoke about the HR practices in countries like USA and Canada, and HR practices in Asian countries like Japan and China, and also HR practices in European countries. We haven't discussed European countries yet. We will break because you will be having another class, right? We'll break for today and we'll continue in tomorrow's session. That should be fine. Yes. Yeah. I'll see you all in the next session tomorrow. We'll break for today. Thank you all.